Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. Um, we are trying. I'm talking to all you guys about trying to come out here and see my solar panels and stuff on the farm. So we're trying to do next week. So I'll keep everybody abridged via email of who's coming and when we can work this out. But I'm working hard for that, and we're trying for next week. So hopefully we'll be able to work this out on that. So I hope everybody's doing okay on the test there. Remember, that's due on Sunday by midnight. If you have any questions on that, I'm not clear on my five little essay questions. Uh, please don't be afraid to reach out and talk to me. I don't want to make this. I want to see your creativity and your ability to write and all this stuff, but I don't want to make this too hard for you either. And also tell me if you're not liking the class or anything. If you want me to step up my game and maybe bring you some more equations or something like that. Because some of this stuff is kind of basic, but I don't know where you guys stand on everything. And I hope I'm trying to giving you some base knowledge that you can just start to apply. And even though we don't go over the equation of the laws of physics that much, I'm hoping that you making the connection of how you apply the laws of physics and all this stuff to energy consumption and storage. Before we get into the next PowerPoint slide, I just want to talk a little bit about this article I just saw that happened yesterday. I think this was yesterday. We talked about the Dakota XL pipeline that they were putting in from Canada, tar sands, all the way down to the middle of America, and then they're going to shoot it all the way down to Gulf of Mexico and send it on out. All right. Believe it or not, China owns probably I think 30% of those tar sands, and they want that oil, and it was going to go down our through that pipeline. They get the money, we get the pollution. That's what I always say. But that's neither here nor there. That's one of those geopolitical things that we're talking about that I asked you to look up for question 5 on your essay. All right, that's another example of what's going on. Um, Buying up of natural resources. Other countries have these things called sovereign funds, and they buy up natural resource assets around the world so they can use them. Believe it or not. But that's neither here nor there. This Dakota Access Pipeline, the judge suspended it. All right, he's actually making them drain out the pipeline and stop running it. All right, so after all those, there was about 2 years during Obama's administration. Where, I mean, there was like a full year um, where they camped out. They were camping out and blocking this from, blocking the bulldozers for like almost a full year. I mean, you could see the fire in the back and they're burning the flag. It's up, or I don't know if they were burning the flag. I think they were just upside down. All right. They set dogs on these people. There was corporate people. I mean, it was crazy. It was a crazy scene in the dead of winter as well in North Dakota. And eventually, Obama conceded because we, as the State Department of the United States, decides which lands they can acquire in order to do pipelines and electrical transmission lines and how we get our energy. The government, it's the State Department, and there's also the Land Bureau of Management and some other things decide. There's actually four groups on this one panel decide whether or not that is a viable use to be able to use what's called eminent domain to take over that land and put that pipeline through. And apparently they, did not give up and are not giving up. I'm sure this is not over yet because it's just in a little, I think it's in the secondary court or something like that. But judges sided with the environmental groups requiring the Keystone Pipeline, which would stretch from Canada province to Alberta to Texas in the southern U.S., to undergo an odorous review before construction resumes. So they have been pointing out some mistakes and they want to make sure it's all safe. All right. If you want to check out this news article, all I did was this is the BBC. All right. All I did was put XL pipeline shut down and all these came up. Okay. So read up on it. But it was a crazy time back then. All right. Very interesting watching the XL pipeline and how we've been whether or not we should use it, because a lot of climate people say it's game over if we take all that oil out of the tar sands, which we want to do. It's game over for climate change and basically humanity. That's not an understatement. Okay. So this video or this little lecture, we're going to talk about the reasons for seeking renewable energies. All right. Yeah, there's a little broad overview. We're going to talk about the major sources of renewable energies. Then we're going to get into specifically solar energies, uses, and forms. All right, we're going to talk about what's called passive and active solar energy techniques, and this is collecting the heat of the sun. All right, and then we're going to talk about photolithic solar cells and how they work. This is the electricity that's generated by the sun. And we're going to talk about some solar energy storage techniques as we progress through this. All right. So, a great case study for you guys to see how a nation can switch over to renewable energies is Germany. Right now, Germany produces more than about 6% of its electricity from solar powers, meaning they use these photolithic cells. All right. And it's one of the highest in the world. But Germany uses what's called a feed-in tariff system, meaning that the utilities have to buy back the electricity from anyone on the grid who can produce it from renewable energies. So if you're using extra electricity or you're producing electricity for the grid, the companies have to mandate it. This is required by law. But how they set this program up, it allowed the homeowners and businesses to install solar roofs on their panels, on their panels, and this money that the utilities were were forced to pay them, a reasonable rate. This was not like extravagant. They gave them low interest loans, and then that payment was made so it will pay off those low interest loans for the homeowners. So they're not getting rich. All they're doing is saving on their electricities and having those solar panels paid for, that installation paid for. Okay, so it's not like a get rich scheme or anything like that. It's a way to put solar panels on people's homes at a very low cost. All right. The Renewable Energy Sources Act in 2002 assigned a payment rate. All right. To the market considered for every renewable energy source. So they looked through and they saw, what's the real cost and how much it should actually, the people should get paid back. All right. So they did this they had a reasonable discussion about this. All right. And gradually lowering its tariffs until a goal for about 52 gigawatts of capacity was reached. So what they wanted to do was Germany said we want to have 52 gigawatts of our electricity in our in our country generated by solar panels. Right, and when they got closer and closer to this level, right, they kind of lowered the tariffs and said, "Hey, we can't do this anymore." They actually stopped the program. They put the program in for 10 years, but it was really so successful, they had to stop it after 8 years. All right. Since 1990, carbon dioxide emission from Germany energy sources has fallen by 25%. And they have other stuff, pollutants, okay, have gone down by 12 to 95%, depending on the pollutant, okay. So Germany has transitioned, has not been completely smooth. It has shut down about 7 of its 15 nuclear plants in response to Fukushima's meltdown. And this, of course, there's a rebound effect. They had to fire up some of the more coal consumption. All right. But after Fukushima, I don't know if you guys know what that was. That was a big, huge nuclear accident that happened in Japan after an earthquake, and it's still going on. Right. And a lot of the world kind of woke up or didn't wake up, but just don't like that possibility. Germany didn't like that. So they're trying to defund, or not, phase out their nuclear plants, and they need something fast, and coal is the fastest way. Okay? Germany's systems of tariffs and government subsidies of renewable energy technology has served as a model for more than 70 other countries. People have adopted this and used it. And I think we should actually adopt this policy for the United States. All right, or one that is at least similar. Okay, so if you're ever looking, if you're interested in public policy and how to promote renewable energies, this is one of the best case studies out there of how a nation has done this very effectively. right? And believe it or not, Germany right now is developing a new pricing model for its delivery system of electrical energy. They're really shaking it up. This is, a lot way beyond the scope of this class. It's more of an economics kind of model of how we price this stuff and keep it going. All right, because what Germany found, well, we kind of knew this was going to happen. All right, there's this thing called the duck curve. All right, the duck curve problem. And if you want, you can, click on this video here, and this is a video about how it kind of explains it a little bit. All right, but you can see this kind of looks like a duck, quack, 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 quack. So what's happening here with the renewable energies, all right, is that it will be, the constant stream of energy was going on right here, all right, and then all of a sudden, when the sun comes up, 8 o'clock in the morning, the grid starts getting all this extra energy, all this extra sunlight, right? So that forces the power plants, the coal fired plants and the other plants, to have to, reduce their amount of energy. Okay, so because we want to have just a nice stream going across this little black line, and that's what we want to see happening. All right, we always want to see that output. All right, and we have all this excess right here if we kept all the coal plants going. All right, and that's what's called the duck curve. All right, because if we just shut down all these coal plants, sooner or later the sun is going to um, go down, and we got to fire back up the coal plants. All right, and that's not too efficient for these. We want to keep that heat and that electricity, that turbine flowing at a constant pace. So we were getting overloaded, and there was a potential. There's a big gain of electrical generation while the sun was up or the wind is shining, right? And that is what creates this duck curve right here. And then when the sun goes down, it goes up. And believe it or not, there's been some times in Germany when, if you check the spot price of electricity, it was actually negative. They had too much electricity. The coal-fired plants were firing up, and the solar panels were going, and the wind turbine panels were going, and they just had way too much electricity, and they were paying consumers to get it because we try to keep it at a constant supply, right? You don't really, you know, send the electrons when needed. You just keep them flowing, okay, and stopping at the end until the switch is set, until the switch is moved. All right. So renewable energy sources. So this is a great case study. All right, and watch if you're really interested in the economics of how markets work. Go check out Germany. All right, if you want to go have a cup of coffee with me and talk about it a little bit more, I like to do that too. I'm always open for that. I like that case study. So renewable energy sources. So conventional alternatives to fossil fuels, such as hydropower, biomass, are renewable, but they can be depleted with overuse, and they exert some undesirable environmental impact. So the story of the lower axe is real. Okay, we need to make sure we properly maintain these new renewable energies. Okay, we don't cut down too many trees too fast. Okay, I know it's hard to not do that with solar panels because it's the sun. That's always right there, but sooner or later it'll disappear. Um, but having said that, you see the undesirable environmental impacts. There are, the laws of physics are unescapable. So when we're mining the steel and the glass, making the glass and getting the semiconductors together for those photolithic cells, we are actually, causing some environmental damage. So we need to do, like I said before, the total throughput of the process. All right, from point A, what's it like getting all the materials out of the ground? What are the causes of pollution, environmental damage, or benefits when we're putting them all together to make the energy source? How long does that energy source last? And then when it's done, what do we do with it? Do we put it in a landfill? Does it go up in the air and smoke? We got to calculate all those throughputs and put them together and say, okay, this is the one we want to use because it gives us enough energy and keeps the environmental clean. Sometimes it doesn't give us enough energy though, and it keeps the environment clean, or it gives us too much energy and dirties up the environment. So that's a hard decision, but we need to, look at all the variables that go into each energy source. Okay, the sun, the wind, geothermal heat, ocean water, and new renewables because they are just beginning to be used on a wide scale. All right. Believe it or not, we've been using the sun, the wind, geothermal heat, and ocean water for a long, long time. All right. Humanity lived on just the sunlight alone for thousands of years. And I kind of believe we could do it again. All right. We're not going to be living in the total lap of luxury unless you got the money. But we'll be okay. I mean, we're still going to have light bulbs and everybody's still going to have their phones. You'll still be able to play Candy Crush and stuff like that. Okay. They are just, new renewables are just harness using technologies still in a rapid phase of development, and they will likely play a larger role in the future renewable energies. So we don't really have a choice. Okay. And you can see here that, the U.S. consumption of energy by source renewables are only about 10%. All right. Fossil fuels are 80 and nuclear. And we need is 8.7. We'll probably hang on this nuclear. I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, might as well. That stuff's already burning. So you might as well use it until it's done. And I say grandfather that out, but you can make up your own mind on that. We need to take these renewables and flip it over. Make this 80% and fossil fuels 10%. Because remember, fossil fuels are important. They give us a good bang for a buck for our money, and it gives us a lot of heat. Right? We're chasing those carbon change and those carbon change so we can get max BTUs. And sometimes it's only going to be coal that's going to give us our steel. Okay, so far. Okay, the breakdown in the United States, you see 2.2 is geothermal, 5% is solar. Okay, this is a combination of both passive, active, and photovoltaic. So it's not just those solar cells you see on someone's rooftop. Okay, and we'll talk about the difference of those when we go through this presentation. Wind is about 20%, hydropower, which is dams, right? Out there, and my humble opinion is that we won't see any more increase in hydropower because we have dammed up every damn place that they would be dammed in order to give us a lot of damn energy. Okay, so there's other countries like China and developing countries that can use hydro dams, and there's some controversy of ecological damage and stuff like that, but each society needs to decide the pros and cons of that themselves. Okay, and then we have bioenergy, which is basically plant mass. Your trees out there, your switchgrass, your hemp seed oil, your olive oils, all those different things. Okay, so it's just basically your living matter. Okay, your algae. And you can see the breakdown for electricity is basically just the same. All right, 19% for nuclear and 64% for fossil fuels, but renewables 15%. We're doing a lot better. The wind category is definitely expanded in the recent years, but solar, you see, for electricity is only 8.9% of total electrical generation. Okay, and we need to be flipping this over. Fossil fuels, I don't even think we need any. And as you read through that solutions project, that's my basis of why I think we don't need any fossil fuels for electrical generation. All right, and that's kind of leaving the driving thing out. We'll talk about the driving thing later on, but if I take out just how we get around in our cars, I think the solutions project that you're reviewing for the homework for the next discussion would definitely work out just for the electricity itself. All right, and it's worth doing. Okay. For the use of new renewables, they provide a lot of benefits. All right, so they have the reduction of air pollution. So when we do the manufacturing of these products, or we actually use the energy at the end use, we see that the air pollution is definitely a lot less than a coal-fired plant. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Okay. Also, it's a reduction in the greenhouse gases. We're worried about CO2. We are adding more balloons to the atmosphere every time we burn some coal or any other fossil fuel, and that balloon in the atmosphere over time will capture the latent heat of the sun and add it up and heat up the atmosphere. Okay, and it's very important. People say, "Oh, I don't know how you cannot see the Earth's heating up right now." I think that's like it's right there in front of our faces. But we got to remember the laws of thermodynamics here, folks. Okay, that when you put a pot of water on the stove and you turn on the heat, It does not boil immediately. All right, it takes some time for that water, that energy transfer from the stovetop, that convection heat from the stovetop to the water to excite those molecules inside. Same thing for global warming. All right, it takes a while for the sun to heat up the atmosphere, and every time we throw a new balloon in there, that balloon gets hotter and hotter, and then it hits boiling point, and just stays at a constant rate. All right, and that's just the way it is until the sun goes out. Okay, and or the CO2 molecules get captured back into the atmosphere. I mean, it goes through the whole cycle, but we have a lot of balloons out there. All right. And diversification of any economy's energy mix is key. I remember when we first started this, I had you read that resilience article from Post Carbon Institute, and diversification is definitely the key for our energy resilience. Okay. So I always say in ecological economics, I shouldn't say I always say, but in ecological economics, we always say that the macro is only as strong as the micro. So, in my humble opinion, we need a lot of small little renewable energy plants to create our electricity in like a little hub. Just like you have a lot of nodes on the internet, we'll have a lot of nodes on the electrical grid. Okay. And if one of those little nodes goes down, the other ones can help out. All right. To step in where that's not done, we can just fix that one little node and everything back together. And also the diversification is definitely needed because you can see here these powers. All right, so this is the greenhouse emissions for a uh, coal and oil and natural gas. A lot of greenhouse out here, but see all these different things right here. It means that the diversified electrical grid's diversified. We're just counting on coal, we're just counting on oil, we're just counting on natural gas. And if only one of those things, legs of that stool, is taken out from under us, a whole system collapses. Right? But it's harder to take out one of these legs and have the system collapse because we've got a whole bunch of different legs. Okay? Hope that made sense. Another great thing about new renewable energies is jobs, 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 baby. I'm telling you, this will create so many jobs. When you go through that solutionsproject.org website, you'll see every state has their jobs list. And a lot of those, the construction jobs are temporary jobs for about 5 to 10 years. All right. But some of those are permanent jobs, okay, to run and keep these wind turbines and solar panels maintained. So they break it down. I can't remember what they call it. Construction jobs and operational jobs. I think that's what they call it on that plan. Okay, but it's estimated jobs created just in the PV solar. We're going to switch over to renewable energy and do what's called green collar jobs. We got 3 million there, 1 million in dams, 1.7 million in farming and biofuels, 1.5 million in wind power, solar heating, which we'll talk about today, 828,000 jobs, biomass, which would be like burning wood pellets and stuff like that, 7,223 jobs, 723,000 jobs, and other odds and ends, ocean power and stuff like that. Over 500,000 jobs. So there's a lot of jobs out there. All right, and believe you me, this is the time to do it because we need these jobs. Okay. Now, policy is very important when it comes to switching over these renewable energies. Okay, it's going to really take some push and some pull from the federal government or any government, just like Germany did. They gave a little push and a little pull to spur the solar panels out there. All right. But the good thing here in the United States or in the world is that although the prices are falling, all right, and the market prices for coal and natural gas and nuclear power are becoming on par with renewable energy. So you can see PV solar right here. This is the price per megawatt hour. It can range anywhere between 75 and 225. Okay, but you look at coal, it's $60 and 125. So if we can squint this little bar right here, we're in the game. All right. You can see here that geothermal is definitely just as good as nuclear power coal, right? And the best right here is, of course, wind power. Wind power is cheaper than just about every other um, resource out there. So that's taking it, not considering any carrots or sticks. All right, just the price of the market today. All right, on par. Okay, so it's looking good. The time right now, the economics are looking good. Now we just need a little push to start the adoptions. Okay, but some of the policies that can help adopt this are feed-in tariffs, such as Germany. Okay, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the Thai system today about the solar panels. We call it tying into the grid here in the United States, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. A nation also needs to set goals and mandates for its renewable energy sources. And believe it or not, we haven't had one since freaking Jimmy Carter. Right? Jimmy Carter, as much as he gets bashed on, at least he had a goal and some mandates written on pieces of paper and actually had a policy and was trying to get to that policy. I mean, Obama did a good job. I can't blame him. All right, he did a good job, but it wasn't as good as Jimmy's. And the goals in the mandates still were not as clearly defined as I would wish. But I also got to say that he didn't really have time to finish it. Okay, and if we would have had someone to come in after him that was more like-minded, definitely those goals and those mandates would be set in government policy a little bit more stricter. As soon as Trump came in, he got rid of everything. Okay. Definitely need some government investment in research and development in this. All right, everything that we have, our iPhones, the internet, is all comes from the government investment in research. I'm not to say the private industry doesn't do that, but we hire the private industry to do that research. We pay them to do that research for us. Okay, so it takes government investment to do this kind of stuff. And I look at it as an investment. People always, oh, why am I going to get taxed? You're not getting taxed. You're investing in the future to build the next infrastructure. Okay. I'm also doing some lending programs for renewable energy startups, businesses. All right. So we have stopped this. I don't know if there's any more of these out there. Obama did that during his administration. It worked pretty darn good. You'll probably only hear about Solyndra. Solyndra was like one of them that failed. Not everyone goes bunk. But believe it or not, that program that Obama did where he lent money to renewable energy startup companies, they went back and looked at the history. We, as the people, actually made money on that. We did better than what's called the angel investors during that period of time. And angel investors are the people that take their own private money and say, hey, I'm going to be the man behind, I'm going to be that, the Elon Musk behind Tesla or whatever. Okay. Um, so we have a better lending um, portfolio than the startup and angel investors do. Also, we use tax credits and rebates to individuals and businesses who produce and buy renewable energy. So I get a little bit of what's called I got a tax credit when I bought my solar panels. That's how I was able to afford them. So what they said is I took all my costs and I could take 10% of that cost off my taxes over 10-year period. So say my 10% of my cost. This is easy math. This is one of my costs. This is just for math. Okay, so 10% of 100,000 would be $10,000. So I'm allowed to take $10,000 off my tax bill. All right, but I don't make I don't get taxed $10,000 a year. All right, say I want to get taxed $9,000 a year. Okay, so each year I could take that $9,000 or $900 a year. Trying to make this easy math. $900 a year. So each year I can take that $900 until that I use up all that $10,000, or 10 years, whichever comes first. Okay, so tax credit is a nice way to do it. Okay. There's also rebates, which means you get a dollar for dollar return. I don't know if the federal government has this anymore, but a rebate is actual cash. Okay, so when I did this for my farm, Pennsylvania, they don't have it anymore, but Pennsylvania had a rebate. But I had to produce all my, put it in my solar panels, have it all qualified, and run all this stuff, make sure it's, electrical certification, and all the rigmarole, all the I's and D's were tossed, and I sent in all that paperwork and pictures and a little bit of explanation of what it was, and they sent me a check for some money to help offset that cost. But I still had to put the money up front. Okay, and we do use these a lot. I think one of the students is doing something on some tax credits and rebates on solar panels for businesses. So I can't wait to get an update of what's out there this year, so I can update my little stories. Okay. So in many cases, the government has subsidized fossil fuels and nuclear power far more than are now subsidizing renewable energies. We have given renewable energy, or not fossil fuels, money at the. It's unbelievable. How do you think we built the grid, or those coal-fired plants and nuclear power plants? We paid for them way back in the 1920s, and it was a good thing. It saved so many lives. It was wonderful. All right, but if you look at the monies, all right, so oil and gas get about 446 billion dollars between 1918 and 2009. All right, renewable energies has gotten 32 billion and 5 billion. Nuclear has gotten over 185 billion dollars. Okay, since they've been around, so we need to really pick up the pace on the biofuels and non-renewable energies, because I don't know why we're giving Exxon and Halliburton and all these other places all these tax breaks and subsidies when they're making a pretty darn penny, in my humble opinion. Now you can disagree with me and say, hey, these subsidies are just fine for oil and gas. We don't need to do renewables, but if there needs to be a level playing field. So remember this little money thing. Okay, those subsidies are actually in these prices. So if you could imagine if we took out the subsidies for coal, nuclear power, and natural gas, where their prices would be. All right, they'd be up here somewhere. All right, because we are actually, subsidizing a lower price, and that could be good, it could be bad, but that's an economic policy choice. Okay, and his way it is to determine that. So per year, oil and gas receive about 13 times more subsidies, and nuclear power has received more than 9 times more support than renewable energy. All right, only one single year has solar, wind, and geothermal combined ever received as much support as the lowest amount ever offered to oil, gas, and nuclear power. All right, so it's amazing. Whether you see it in this little bar chart, or you see it in this little pie chart. Definitely the big boys are getting all the money. Okay, so solar energy. Solar energy is energy from the sun, of course. All right, and the Earth receives enough solar energy each day to power consumption for 25 human consumption for 25 years. And that's present consumption. Okay, so if our consumption goes up, we might have to add another year. But just imagine that in one day that we get enough energy from the sun to drive all this stuff that we use. But if only we can capture. Okay, on the podcast you'll listen to next week, you'll hear about some of these estimations of how much solar panels we could have. Okay, and it gets kind of crazy. I mean, it is possible, but you got to remember, we're not going to be able to put solar panels to capture the sun's earth all over the oceans. All right, how are we going to build an array to do that? Okay, so we got to take this number with a little bit of grain of salt. That just this is what happens. It is so diffuse, we're not going to be able to really capture it. Okay, so finding cost-effective ways and efficiently collecting and converting this energy has been a major challenge, and that's why we need bright new students just like you guys to get out there and start. We can design in some new renewable energy sources for us, or fix the grid, or tweak this, or tweak that. Start making that macro as strong as the micro for us. Okay, there's plenty of jobs out there for this. Okay, Solar energy offers many benefits. Remember, the first benefit is that it is the primary source of all energy here on Earth. I mean, the coal, natural gas, and fossil fuels are a benefit from solar energy. Don't forget that main premise of it. How many times I got to say that? Okay, solar energy has many advantages over the other energies. Okay, so solar energy is basically inexhaustible. Right? Having said that, it's going to take about 1 billion years. Yes, the sun will blow up and not be functional, but that's like 1 billion years from now. So I could say it's kind of inexhaustible, but it's really not. Okay, in a human for human use, yes, it is. So enough solar energy reaches the Earth to power civilizations. Uh, once we learned how to harness it, so we've always been using solar panels or solar energy throughout our whole civilization. We went to caves because the caves kept the thermal mass of the Earth around that cave gave us a nice, comfortable climate. Okay, a lot of the solar energy, no fuel is needed. Now, there's a little caveat. We'll talk about active solar here in a little bit, but there is fuel needed for that because we're going to drive some pumps and stuff like that. And also, there's also fuel needed through the whole throughput system. We got to make those solar panels somehow, and that takes fuel. All right. So, both sides of the aisle needs to, equate there's fuel used and everything. It takes energy to make energy. It takes energy to convert energy. All right. And fuel is basically energy. There's no moving parts in most of the solar designs. Okay. So little maintenance is required. Tons of jobs out there to be created, and no greenhouse gases or other pollutants are emitted once it's up and running. But because remember, it took a backhoe and the machines to get that iron ore out to make that wind turbine. All right, to say so, you'll hear it over and over again. And I'm guilty of this too, but I always try to correct myself. But this is what this is what books say, and you'll hear this all the time. Even Bill McKibben says this. So no greenhouse gases or other pollutants are ever emitted, and very little. All right, and you got to look at the total throughput of the project as well. So we can collect solar energy from using what's called passive or active methods. And solar energy is this is just the heat from the sun. Okay, and that nothing more, nothing less. Okay. So passive solar energy involves designing buildings to maximize absorption of the sunlight in winter while keeping the interior cold in the heat of the summer. Okay. So you can see here they have these little slats. And what would happen is the sun will, and during the winter time, it will come down in here and go into these windows and heat up this area. Okay. And these slats up here during the summertime, the sun is higher in the horizon. These slats, it's bringing down these slats, and it's actually shading, blocking the sun and causing shade here and cooling down this area, right? And this kind of technique can be done by doing a lot of plant vegetation on buffers, all right? And what's actually happening here is, in this back wall, they use what's called thermal mass. All right, it's a material that absorbs and stores and releases the heat slowly after the sun heats it up. So this little design, this little house right here is what's called an earthship. Someday, Google earthships. I love this. I'm going to build one of these in my farm, and this is what I'm going to retire in. Right, it's perfect for me. One long strip, and I can my wheelchair back and forth and don't have to worry about it. I mean, it'll be perfect. Right, and believe it or not, behind this wall, all right, is a big stack. I should have put a better picture in this. It's a big stack of tires, right? Big black tires. So the sun during the day shines in here, heats up this house. It heats up this thermal mass, all right, just by using the laws of physics. And it heats up during the day, and during the nighttime, there's no sun, and what's going to happen? The stored heat in this is now going to radiate back into the home. Into the home, keeping it a little bit warmer at night. And then the sun comes up in the morning, the process starts over again. It heats up this thermal mass, and that heat releases. And there's a little bit more to the passive solar design, but we have been doing this since we started building homes. I think it was Archimedes that said you could tell a civilized nation because all the houses face south. All right, I would wonder what he would think today. Our houses are just all discombobulated. We don't even use passive solar energy anymore, except for some smart designs. So someday, go to Google and just put in Earthship. All right, what is an Earthship? And it's an amazing story. All right, and if you feel like you want to help me build one, come on out. I need some people to help bring me some tires because I can't do that anymore. Okay, I wish I could because I've been digging that Earthship out. All right. I love it. But it's just using thermal mass, right? There's also, so nothing's moving in this, all right? This is just the design of the building, shading the sun or inviting the sun in to heat it up, all right? So this is just more of just, put the structure there and use thermal mass to help or use some kind of architectural design to help block and shade the house or some trees or something like that. Okay. There's also what's called active solar energy collectors. And you might have seen these a lot more or seen these on homes. And this does take some energy. All right. So what it does is we have the sun bearing down on this little panel right here. And inside this panel are a bunch of loops going loo, 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 or up and down or what have you. Okay. And it heats up this water as it flows through. And we just use the laws of thermodynamics and the temperature equation, differential equation, and we know how long it will take for water, cold water, say this water is 68 degrees, how long it will take to be heated up by the sun to be 120 degrees, right? And we time that out. We make this loop long enough for the sun to do its job and slowly heat up this water, and it goes back down into this little tank, right? And now we have the diffusion. Okay, so the diffusion of this hot water now goes into another cold water and heats this up into what's called the boiler, right? And the hot water goes right back out, all right? And we make a hot water tank that way, all right? So we're taking sun's rays, we're heating up some water with it, running that water through a little boiler, heating up the water for the hot water tank, and that hot water goes out there, all right? And like I said, it takes some energy to do this because we need the pumps to be able to pump the water, or, it's water and a little bit of antifreeze in it and stuff like that. So, but the water is definitely, the hot water tank is all full of water. So you got to keep these two components different, all right, or separated. Okay, so we're taking this solution and heating up another solution and sending it out there. And it takes energy and an electrical pump. Okay, and these are called flat plate solar collectors. Okay, and they're dark colored because colored black absorbs the heat, right? You don't want to make it white because it'll just reflect all the sunlight, right? All the heat would be reflected, not absorbed, right? And it's just put on top of a nice sunny area. And we're going to talk about positioning here in just a little bit. Okay. So there's also what's called geothermal heat pumps, and they are solar energy, believe it or not. The sun, over these billions of years, has heated up this rock to a certain temperature. Yes, we got a hot molten coral core in there, but we also have the crust and everything else. And the sun is, every day since it comes up, it has made this Earth a certain type of temperature. I don't know if you've ever been to Laurel Caverns or in caving before, right? But every time you go to a cave, depending on what region you're in, but here in Pennsylvania, the cave is always 68 degrees. It doesn't matter if it's 30 degrees outside or 110 degrees. The cave is always 68 degrees because that is thermal mass, my friends. That is the sun heating up the thermal mass of this rock, right? And we can capture that because soil absorbs and releases heat a lot more slower than air. So several inches below the surface, the temperatures are nearly constant year-round. All right, and like I said, it depends on where you are. So it's 68 degrees down in the caves here in Pennsylvania, but it might be 72 degrees in Brazil, Okay, so we got to remember how much light intensity is getting there, how much heat intensity is getting there to those caves area. But it's the same concept as the Earthship, but we drill down. All right, and it's called ground source heat pumps, and it takes advantage of this by transferring the heat to the ground into the building during the winter and back to the ground during the summer. All right, and it's a real simple concept. All right. So all we have here says this is the summertime, so that a lot of hot air up here in the room, right? The sunshine and beating in there. We got a lot of hot air. So we pump, take some electricity, all right? We pump the hot air back down here. And we do the same kind of calculation. Figure out how long this air or water, it could be a water medium too, needs to pump through all these pipes to eventually get to the ground temperature of 68 degrees. And then it's pumped back up here into the household, and then at 68 degrees, pump right through here to the floor, and that dissipates the the second law of thermodynamics. So the cold is now dissipating into the heat, all right? And when it finally gets too hot, all right, it's sent back down for another round. Oops. Sent back down for another round. Okay? So all it is the same thing as we just saw with these solar panel, water panels, all right? Except for the sun heating it up, we're just using the thermal sun heating up to this thermal mass and taking advantage of this thermal mass. And this is a great way to do it. All right, and during the summertime, it'll be colder inside, and it heats up to 68. So you can think it's if you have regular air conditioning out here, it's 90 degrees. It'll be a lot harder to take 90 degrees and make it 68 degrees than take 68 degrees and make it 68 degrees, right? So less temperature difference saves us money. All right, and we can't really make this any hotter or cooler. We're just taking care of a nice regular heat. And 68 degrees is a good temperature to vary from. All right, it's 68 to 72 is a lot easier than 68 to 30 to 72, and then 72 to 68 is a lot easier for the summertime for the air conditioning, right? So it's a great way to do this. The big disadvantage, and also remember, you can do this and drill straight down and then straight back up. All right, so you can, all right, it doesn't have to be laid flat like this. Okay. The disadvantage is we can't really put these in too many existing homes, like in a suburb, like if you want, when that suburb where behind Robert Morris, where the nice people live. They couldn't put these in their suburbs because you have to tear up all this land and lay these piping out. All right, but my sister bought into this housing plan down in Virginia, and all the houses had this connection hooked up. All right, before you were allowed to build your own house and all this other stuff, but they had this kind of system built for the whole housing plan. All right, it was for one of the gigs to come help buy this new home or whatever, be green. This is a greenie weenie like me, all right. But it really is, and she loves. I mean, it just called a heat pump. It makes total sense, right? And we're able to capture that, and that is just passive solar, active thermal, solar thermal, all right? Because we have the passive solar thermal coming down here, heating the ground and making the earth a certain temperature. Then we have active, because we have to use electricity to run the pumps. Remember, this could be air or water, okay, running through that little system. Now, there's also the ocean. The ocean actually does store thermal energy. We're not going to get into this because it's still a little complex, and it still hasn't been still in the research areas. But if you feel like it, look up ocean thermal energy conversion. All right, and it's just an experimental approach. It uses the temperature difference gradients in the ocean to do the same thing. So there's temperature gradients of down in the ground and out here and in here, right? So there's three temperature gradients: real hot, cool, and trying to keep comfortable. Okay, we can do the same thing with the ocean. The ocean is the water is that thermal mass that the sun has heated up for millions of years. Okay. Simple as that. The key to solar is location, timing, and cost of solar energy. Um, and these can all be drawbacks. Okay, solar energy is intermittent resource, meaning its daily and seasonal variations of sunlight prevent the ability to provide a consistent energy supply without storage capacity. So that's what's having trouble with Germany. We talked about with the duck curve, right? So it has daily and seasonal variations. So sometimes, in the wintertime, it's not as sunny as the summertime, and that kind of messes up that duck curve as well. So we saw it just for a day, but that duck curve also exists for a year. Okay. Solar energy has high upfront cost of purchasing and installing equipment because there's no real rebates. I mean, Germany, those loans were basically free. I mean, not free. You had to apply for a loan. You defaulted, you're in trouble. All that rigmarole. Okay, you still had certain things, but they made it so that the electric companies had to pay your bill, but you made sure that you were still responsible for that bill. All right. Current installations do pay for themselves in about 10 to 20 years. That's a typical break even. I'd probably say about 15 is the break even. My home, when I did it, I had an extra grant from the USDA because I have a farm. So my break even was 8 years. And guess what? This is the 8th year, baby. And it actually pretty darn close to my break even point. Okay. So now it's worth it. Meaning I haven't gotten an electric bill in 8 years. All right, and now everything else is going to be gravy. And this upfront cost is tough, and that's one of the things we talked about those incentives back there. We got to somehow find a way to not pay the upfront cost, but make the upfront cost affordable. All right, to be able to do that, because I was lucky I had that cash. And full disclosure, my solar panels came from funding of fracking. All right. I decided that if it's going to be a bridge fuel, I can't really say no to the fracking because all my neighbors are doing it. How am I going to tell if they're stealing my gas from underneath me? I mean, that's like impossible. I can't. I don't have that knowledge to go down there and know if they're fracking underneath my lane or not. So I might as well get paid for it. And one of the things, it was hard. I didn't want to do it, but what can I do? Okay. So they always say the bridge fuel. So that's what I did. I took that cash. And some of that cash. We also got a sofa and went out to, Erie Water Park and had some family fun and stuff like that. But the bulk of it went into those solar panels, okay, which made sense, okay. And now 8 years later, I'm about paid off, okay. And I must apologize. That slide was supposed to be up there a little bit, kind of out of whack. But hey, I'm not perfect. All right, now concentrating sunlight focuses energy. So this is another way to use the sun's heat in a passive way. All right, and this isn't really active right now because it's just reflecting. Okay, so concentrated solar power plants intensify the solar energy by gathering from a wide area and focusing in one point. All right, I don't know if you guys ever heard of a solar cooker, or just have portable ovens that has reflectors. Looks like one of those little drums that those people play in the Caribbean, right? And it's just a big steel bowl, and the sun heats up all your food, right? Oh yeah, it's just as simple as the burning of a leaf with a magnifying glass. I don't know if you when you were young, you ever took a magnifying glass and used the sun, and next thing you know, that leaf's on fire. Now I hope you guys didn't do that to any bugs, and only the dried leaves, okay? Because those potato bugs could go pop. That's not nice. Just kidding. So concentrated solar panel just a bunch of mirrors reflecting, and they're all set up on a computer program to track the sun. So they intensify the light and point up here and to this big old tower, right? And the tower facility receives the sunlight concentrated by the mirrors and transfers the heat system to a steam-driven generator. And like, what heat system? How can this actually work? There's focusing all this light up here. What good is that? All right. Well, actually, what's going on is the sun's reflecting all the mirrors to that tower is full of what's called molten salt. All right, which is molten salt, just what it sounds like. It's salt that has been heated up so much it's turned into molten lava, molten salt. All right, really, really, really hot stuff. Right, and that's what we're concentrating. So this is basically the storage. We're transferring the sun's heat. All right, the sun comes down, hits these mirrors, and we're transferring that heat into this molten salt. All right, into the salt, making it molten, making it really hot. And we take that hot stuff, all right, and we put it in here, and we start the steam generator, run it in here, and we do the same thing. Instead of burning coal or natural gas, we are just now heating it up with molten salt from the that was made from the heat of the sun. All right, so we're converting the sun's energy and putting it into the molten salt, and then putting it to the water and transferring that, making it steam, and then just doing the same thing, taking that steam and turning a turbine, and inside that turbine are a couple magnets going on, some copper wires giving us electricity. Okay, just same way a coal power plant works, or a natural gas power plant works, or even a dam works. It's just that the heat is that molten salt. And as it cools down, it goes back up in the process, gets heats up again, and just like that active solar thing that we saw for our hot water tank on that roof of the house. Concept is very simple, in my humble opinion. And believe it or not, this is the biggest one I believe in the United States is in Utah, and it still isn't up to as good snuff as I would like it to be. But Madrid, Spain has the biggest one. That one is just humongous. And that's one of the biggest cities in Spain. And it has the perfect sun. I mean, it's just like 98 and beautiful there all the time, man. I think it rains like twice a year or something. But it's a beautiful city, and they run on this concentrated solar plant almost exclusively. But having said that, second law of thermodynamics, when the sun goes down, this molten salt is going to cool off, right? So Madrid, Spain can almost make it into the summertime or into the morning time, you just using this, but they do actually have to kick on some extra natural gas and stuff to meet energy demands early in the morning because this stuff cools off, right? And I've been asked before, why don't they just put another tower up there? Well, it doesn't matter they have the tower because we want to be able to use this molten salt at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it doesn't matter if we heat up that molten salt. What tower it is, it's always going to get cold by 6 o'clock in the morning and not be able to boil this steam, this heat. So what they're trying to do is trying to get it so they can store it and keep it hot enough. All right. So now we need some R factoring in here and stuff like that so that the heat does not dissipate and can be trapped inside of that. All right. But this stuff is hot as heck to begin with, so to find materials enough to hold that for long enough to keep it hot enough for long enough is hard to find. All right, because this is molten salt. It ain't exactly pixie dust or easy little ice cubes or something to handle. Okay, and it's always going to cool off. Okay, but it's the same concept as a coal-fired plant, except that the sun's heating it up and heating up molten lava to boil the water to drive the turbine. So those are the basic passive solar and active solar energies. Okay, so that's taking and using the sun's heat. So we use the sun heat and don't move any of it, or we use that sun heat, capture it, and move it somewhere else, and that's active solar. Okay, but there's also what's called photovoltaic cells, PV cells. All right, and it converts sunlight directly into electrical energy through the transfer of electrons to silicons. Okay, so what's happening here is the sunlight hits the solar panels, right? And each one of these is what's called a photovoltaic cell. So these are set up in parallel, and I think it's series, and then parallel here, and you add all this up, and you get like 110 watts or whatever like that. And each one of these photovoltaic cells has different layers and junctions. So let's go look this way. So each one of these cells has different layers. It has covered glass on top, a little adhesive, and then an anti-reflective coating so the sun can actually get through. All right. And then we have our front contact. All right. And then a negative type semiconductor, and then a positive type semiconductor. All right. So when the sunlight gets to this negative semiconductor, it starts energizing the electrons and starts that negative current to go through the load and back on out. All right. So all we're doing is we're using the sun's photo. Geez, I just want my mind just went blank. So we use the sun's rays, not the heat, but the photolithic ray, the photons. Okay, the photons of the sun to excite the silicon in the semiconductors to start that electricity. So it's not a heat process, it's that photon process of the sun's rays that is doing this. Okay, so solar panels can be used in the wintertime or in the summertime. The heat is going to have some variation of efficiency and stuff like that, but it's not a heat driven like the passive and active solar panels are. We're just trying to capture the diffused light photons that are spreading all over this earth. Okay, and that excites the electrons and sends them down the line, writes the load. Okay. Now, there's a couple different ways you can hook up a photolithic cell, all right, to your home. You can tie into the grid, or you can just have off the grid system where you have a backup battery array system if you want. Okay, and it's just very simple. You put the panels on your roof, or in my case, you have it down in I have it in my field. Okay, and those solar panels are hooked up in a box of electronics called an inverter. Right, this is an inverter. So the solar panels will always give us what's called direct current. That's all they can do. All right, and we use in our homes and everything else. Our batteries are direct current. Okay, but our homes, our washers and dryers and everything like that runs off of what's called alternating current. So we got to take this direct current because it can only go in one direction, right, and convert it into AC, alternating current, right, and that then goes out to the house, right, and whatever stuff you need, this little box, whatever we need for the home, is being consumed here, okay, and anything left over goes out here to your meter outside your house and back out to the grid. All right, so all your neighbors. All right, so the sun hits the panels, gets transferred into DC into AC. Your home uses it. All right, whatever left over, your friendly utility provider puts on this new little reverse metering, it's called, and any extra sends your meter backwards. All right, and out to the grid. So what happens here in my home when I decided to put my solar panels in, I just merely took my yearly megawatt consumption, all right, which is about 43 megawatts, and I built an array that would give me 45 megawatts a year, all right. Now, little aside note that if you want to build one for your home, you cannot go over 110% of your yearly energy consumption. If you do, you become a energy power plant. So if you reduced 111% of the energy that you normally use, then that extra 1% qualifies you as a energy plant, and you lose some of these things. There's some other regulations. So just a little aside on that. But it goes through here to that export port, and then my meter goes backwards. So every year, what will happen is during the summertime, I will get a lot of credits. I would produce more electricity than I'm making. And during those months, that bill kind of adds up, and I put them in the bank account. And then it comes winter time, December, I'm not making as much electricity because the sun hasn't been shining as much because it's winter time. They start subtracting all those extra credits. So hopefully by the end of the year, I don't have any credits left over on my account, and then in May everything starts. Right. So far, it's been almost a break-even point. Sometimes I've had to actually pay a little bit at the end of the year, and some years I don't. All right. I don't ever expect to get a number back from Duquesne Light. All right. Sometimes they send me just a tax bill too. But I'm okay with that because the micro is only as good as the macro, right? So everybody's got to pay for the big grid, right? So I don't mind, I get like a $15 bill once a year at least. um, just as taxes. All right, and that's like maintenance costs for the grid. All right, so we all share that, right? So everybody's got to pay for that. So I don't mind that will never go away. All right, but it's nice not getting a bill, and it's as simple as that. I don't need a battery array. All right, I don't have a backup, so my light goes out, electricity in my home goes out. These panels, this inverter actually talks to the outside too, make sure that the electricity is coming in. And if the electricity is coming in, this inverter will automatically shut down these panels from not going past it. Right? It has to be able to talk to the grid. All right, and that's done for safety reasons because we cannot shut these off. So if someone was out here, if I'm running my solar panels, right, and no one else has electricity out here, well, what will happen is those guys will be working on lines and they'll get fried. All right, they'll get an electrical shock. I don't know if they'll get fried. I don't know if it's going to be strong enough all the way down the line, but the power will still be consuming. So you have to be very careful, and if you don't have to set it up properly so no one gets hurt outside. But you can also use a battery, right? So you can take the solar charge, and since batteries are DC, this is usually sometimes put in front of the inverter. All right, so it's DC, and batteries are DC as well. All right, so you store the batteries, and there's what's called also a charge controller in here that charges the batteries at a special. Here's a picture of the charge controller right here. All right, that handles the slow dripping or the constant. Batteries need to be powered to save them at a certain percentage wise. Okay, so there's a charge controller for that, and then it goes to the inverter, right? DC to DC, and then to AC. And if something happened, then it'll go back, just start taking out of the battery and turn it to AC. All right. And this one shows the grid in here too. I don't have a battery system. All right, but if you take out the grid, then you can have a total your home with a little backup system. And believe it or not, these the biggest battery arrays are actually just batteries you can find at in your laptop. These are laptop computer batteries, right? Lithium-ion batteries. I mean, this guy built. This is actually what a wheel-powered Tesla Powerwell looks like. This guy actually built one. All he did was go online and buy a whole bunch of dead batteries for laptops and went through and found all the good cells, put them all together, and build his own one that looked just like this Tesla one, right? And you could do that too, real cheap. You just how to build a Tesla Powerwell, put that into YouTube, and this guy will go through it all for you. Right? And you too can build one. It's about $300. Right? Take some time, and you gotta wire these batteries up properly, but you can have one just like Tesla uses. And Tesla actually uses this in the cars as well. So the battery in the car are just like this, a bunch of small little lithium-ion batteries. It's amazing. You would think it would be like this big honking thing. All right. So this is just for the homeowners, but believe it or not, the biggest backup battery array was also built by Tesla and it's in Australia, South Wales, Australia. This one's hooked up to wind turbines and also solar panels, right? But I couldn't find a picture of the solar. But they use a mix. I couldn't find a picture of the solar panels because Australia, they got to get what they can get, right? And now they're actually starting to store it up. And I put this link in here for you guys if you're interested to go read about the biggest battery array out there. I think it's the only one. I mean, it's not the only one, but it's definitely the biggest one. It's first nation-built battery array plant, and it is an amazing sight to be seen. And he said he was going to do it in like 100 days, and he did it. It was amazing. All right, amazing seeing. We're still seeing if it works though. All right. So it was just completed about a year ago, I believe. So it's still it was developed and put online. So the numbers are gonna come out. All right. Oh, you know what that was? I guess it's 4 o'clock. The market just closed. I have something running on the back of my computer, I guess. Huh? Yeah, I got my stockbroker's app on the back, like you guys can. All right. So there's also got the PV films. PV. We also have the thin film cells too. So the PV cells can be made out of a whole bunch of different things. not different things, but three basic ones. Okay, silicon, thin film, and then you have the uh, concentrators. So you can see the efficiencies. All right, so thin film is not as efficient. All right, crystalline is more efficient, and the concentrator is even more efficient. So each PV system, and depending on what you want to use, um, determines the efficiency ratings of the system. So what this is telling us that here the crystalline silicon is getting about 15, capturing about 15% of the photons that are hitting that ray. All right, that's not too good, is it? I mean, I'd rather be up here at the 25%, all right, of the photons capturing those. Because but you got to remember those photons are pretty well diffused. They're scattered all over the place, all right, and to actually capture as many as we can is kind of tough, all right. But we are working on. I think the newest one that I've seen in test areas, they're touting a 40 to 45% efficiency rate. Well, it's out there, and we'll see what can. It's past the lab stage, so it's out there being in the trial stage. So we'll see if we can get it up to 40. But that's what we're trying to get. When they talk about efficiencies of the solar systems, they're talking about trying to capture as many photons as they can. We got to get over this 25%. And believe it or not, this 25% efficiency for the photolithic cells, same thing as our car. Our car is about 25% efficient, folks. Most of that energy, it just goes to waste. It just goes into hot air out the tailpipe. All right. So the combustion engine, for as long as it's been, is still only about 20 to 35% efficient, depending on which vehicle you're using. Right. It's it's always that 25% always seems to be a milestone for us to overcome. But location, timing, and cost of solar. Location is very important. So one of the major drawbacks of solar energy is that not all regions are equally sunny. But the good news is we know what we can get. All right. So this right here is what's called the 30-year solar irradiation map. All right. And we have gone through the whole world, and we put it up here, and we have figured out how the solar radiation hits the Earth, and we've been tracking that for years and years and years. And we take the 30-year level to decide what's going on today. Okay, so you can see the darker the places, the more sun it is getting, the more solar irradiation it's getting. And you can see here's Germany. Are they getting any solar irradiation? I don't think so. The United States, I don't think we have any light. I mean, they get less sunlight than we do, and they use 20% of their electricity coming from photolithic cells. Something's going on, folks. We should be able to do that as well here in the United States. I talked about Spain with their Madrid with their little concentrating solar plant. All right, they're just about the same as us. I mean, they have some good rain, but they look just like the United States. So we could do the same thing in Spain. It's just taking the will of the people to be able to push us and do this the right way. But just by taking the solar radiation map, we can figure out how much energy strikes the Earth at any given period of time. Okay? And we take this knowledge, put in longitude and latitude, you take this knowledge, and then you figure out how to properly position your solar panels or even the Earthship. All right? So it's important to know where you're going to put it. All right? You want a nice north to south facing. All right? So when the sun is coming up, it's going to east to west, so it's always striking this panel, all right, as it's coming over the horizon, right, the altitude, which is called the Ashworth calculation, all right. And we always got to make sure that we have the right slope too, because if this is just flat down, it's not gonna, when it's low in the ground, it's not gonna be hitting the panel. If this was down on the ground, it's gonna be sliding over it, and you're gonna have to wait until it gets up into the air to really hit it, right? So we got to make sure we have the proper 45. It's basically a 45-degree angle is the most efficient. All right. If it was standing up, the same problem would happen. When it's way up here, high in the sky, you won't be able to see the sun won't be able to strike the solar panels. Okay. So it's all about the position, not just knowing the longitude and latitude and using these maps, solar irradiation maps, and you can figure out how much electricity you're going to generate from your um, solar panels. That's all. Okay. I guess a couple of my orders went off. Ooh, I gotta check that. All right. So solar energy is expanding. All right. Due to lack of government investment in the past decade, solar energy contributed just about 0.6% of the U.S. energy supply. But this is changing. PV technology is growing faster and faster, and has doubled every 2 years. But we got to make sure that a doubling, remember that doubling is from 2%, 1% to 2%, from 2% to 4%. So it's not really that big of a number, but the doubling is just kicking up keep picking up pace. And China is definitely the leader of all the technology and usage out there. But they got 1 billion more people than we have to bring online, all right? So this is not surprising why they're the leader. But you can see here the price of solar has definitely dropped over the years, and the production is definitely starting to increase. So I think this is a very great time in the world to be alive, to see this transformation from renewable energies to a nice mix and diversification of renewable energies from our fossil fuels that we've been using for the past 100 years. Okay? So the sun's energy is what makes everything happen. It can be in the form of heat, which is usually passive or active, or we can use semiconductors to generate electricity. All right, the position is always the key, and efficiencies is increased. Okay, uh, so position is always the key, so the efficiency is increased. We want to make sure we're as efficient as possible. And storage of the sun's energy is expensive and hard to do. All right, batteries, and we'll try to get into some more batteries. I'm probably going to do one subject on that and list the different types of batteries out there. But batteries are very expensive. Okay, and to build a molten salt plant is also expensive too. You can't really have that in your backyard. Okay, so that's it for the solar. If you guys have any questions, please give me a shout. If not, enjoy your day. And then the next presentation, we are going to start on the wind presentation. Okay? So hang in there and get that test done. And like I said, if you have any questions on that test, tell me, please. Thanks, guys.